Hey guys, this is Marcus. I just wanted to make a really quick video, which is taking me forever to film because I'm not good at this. But I wanted to make a video showing some of the differences between the standard edition decks made by Riker Karta and the ones made by Oishi Tengudo, the oldest still active card maker in the world with 222 years of history at the very least. Very impressive, right? So let's take a look at the cards. This is the limited edition Poets deck, and this is the standard edition Poets deck with Poets on the court cards and yeah, different jokers from the Warriors edition. So the first obvious difference between the cards is that let's take them out. It's the backing paper of the cards. So for the Oishi Tengudo cards have a silver pattern on their backs, while the standard edition has a plain single colored back. But it still has a very nice subdued shine that was really hard to get right. These cards have a metallic ink as well, which makes them super shiny, glittery almost, with very expensive metallic ink, I should add. Also, I guess you can tell already at this stage is that the cards they're shaped sort of differently, or they bend quite differently. So let's start with the Oishi Tengudo cards, which have a three-dimensional sort of bend or warp to them. It's not just one side, like both the long sides and the short sides do have a very pronounced warp, which means that when you put the card on the table, actually it's only the four corners of the card that's touching the table. The sides are not touching it at all. And this helps a little bit in producing a very specific sound that you want when you're playing a traditional Hanafuda game. Now, traditional Hanafuda games are always, or almost always, fishing games. So you got a couple of cards on the table and a couple of cards in your hand, and you capture the cards on the table by throwing down cards on your hand on top of them. Like so. Right, so there's no, mechanic reason for, there's no particular rule reason that you have to throw it down like this. You just want to, because it just feels really good. And it just sounds, it's just from the way they sound. So this is like sort of a very important detail in a Hanafuda deck, like the way it sounds when it's thrown down. So this is actually, Oishi Tengudo, they have, their 222-year-old methods for making the cards, and they produce. This is what the cards end up like. Very cool. But the standard edition don't have that same shape. And they say, that's not an accident. It's actually intentional. So I didn't really want the... let's go back to the Oishi Tengudo deck. I didn't actually want to have this sort of traditional Hanafuda shape for these cards. Because the whole reason, the first idea I had that made me decide to make this deck is that I wanted to make a deck that looks like a traditional Japanese Hanafuda deck, but can also be used to play Western games. So the problem with the traditional Hanafuda deck is, the fishing games that you normally play with a Hanafuda deck, you only need to be holding 8 cards in your hand at the same time, which is, fine. But because of the warp, if you're playing something more, I don't know, I like to play games like President and Ding, where you can have anywhere from 20 to 40 cards in your hand at one time. If you hold that many cards that do have this traditional warp, it becomes really hard to spread them out when you fan them out to check what cards you have. And you can tell, right? Like it's like an outward facing arc, right? So it's super hard to hold them this way. It's like it just feels very like twisting your hands, and you're also showing off like half of your deck to the player on your right side, half of the deck to the player on your left side. And if you try and sort of hide them, you're going to be dropping cards left and right. It's just, it's just not super suited for that type of game. Now, these cards are great for playing all the Hanafuda games you can think of, and also for the original games that I list on the campaign page. But if you do want to be able to play standard Western games that do require you to have more than, say, 8 cards in your hand, actually the standard deck is, it's the better deck for that purpose. Making straight cards is not hard, actually, but making straight cards that produce the right clack, that have the right weight to produce a sound is really hard, especially if you're not doing this shape with the 4 corners touching the table. So with these cards, the shape is slightly different. They do have a small bend, not as pronounced as the Oishi Tengudo ones, but also, most importantly, this bend does not prevent you from fanning a whole bunch of cards in your hand. You can still hold them comfortably, relatively comfortably, compared to the Oshitengudo deck. You know, if you want to hold a whole deck, you know, 60 or what? How many? 58 cards in your hand. You know, like just from the thing. You're not going to be able to hold as many cards in your hand just from the way they're made, but you still, like, compared to a traditional deck with the traditional warp, you can hold a whole bunch of these in your hand without issue. But, you know, don't do what I just did. Don't hold 58 cards at the same time. That's not going to end well. But they also, like, one thing that I was super particular about and that was really, really hard getting right is that these cards also produce a very, very satisfying clack when thrown down. So, you know, you can use these for Hanafuda, for the type of fishing games that Hanafuda is associated with, no problem. Let me demonstrate. You can tell, right? Like, you know, it seems like this wouldn't be so hard, right? Just make the cards a certain thickness and you're good to go. But no, actually, it took a lot of experimenting to get this one detail right. Like, I don't know how many months it took me to get to a point where I was satisfied with its sound. And to make sure they did not have a too pronounced bend was also, like, it took a lot of experimenting and I had to come up with my own methods of doing it. But I've come up with a really good and easy to replicate method. And, you know, the cards you can hold a whole bunch of cards in your hand and fan them out without dropping them, without feeling super uncomfortable. And you can also, you know, you can rest assured that when you want to slap them down, they're gonna clack. Yeah, clackety clack. Look at that. These cards know how to clack. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's like the thing I wanted to show you. Just wanted to demonstrate really that these cards are not just, you know, they're not just paper. I mean, of course they are paper. There's 3 layers of paper, but there's also, yeah, there's a lot of love that's gone into this to make sure they are not just, you know, not just that they look good for the pledge, for the campaign video, but also that they're gonna satisfy all you people, all Hanafuda players in your houses. You know, I swear, if you just take cardboard paper and paste, you know, paper on top of it and paste it together, you're gonna end up with really soft cards that don't have this rigidity that you really want in a Hanafuda deck, and you definitely do not get this. Yeah. Snap, clickety clack. Yeah. Alright, I think that's about what I wanted to show you. I said this was going to be a super quick video. I don't know if it was, but thank you for sticking with me to the end. Next, I hope I'll be able to do a video demonstrating some of the games that I've come up with for this deck that are really fun. For example, Brocade, which I think is a really good game. Alright guys, I think that's it. That's a wrap. Ba-jang.